Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we start the third generation of this podcast. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We are going to be talking about the news from the week, including a cool pre-order bonus you can only get if you're in the UK. And then on Thursday, we are going to continue talking about Nintendo's E3 presentations from the past. But in the meantime, Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, Patrick?
I am doing all right. We've got to say, a little bit thrown to immediately have the question tossed back at me.
Turnabout is only fair play.
I mean, I guess that is. I was going to say, I guess that's fair, but you already said fair in the previous sentence. Now I just look like a dummy.
Can I just say,
Mark?
No. Go ahead,
Yeah.
please.
I know I have showed you this before, but I have my phone up on like a little mount, so that you and I can FaceTime while we're recording these things together. And the phone mount isn't high enough on its own, so it's resting on a box. And the box holds my Wii U copy of The Legend of Zelda: The Twilight Princess, complete with the Wolf Link amiibo inside it. And every time we record one of these, so, listener, imagine this. Every time that we've talked since lockdown began, I have been looking at this and thinking, is it time for me to play Twilight Princess again? Every single time.
And it might be. I'll admit, I have not played Twilight Princess for years. And, the Zelda remakes are something that, I wish I had a Wii U so I could easily replay them.
Yeah, so many good Zelda, two of them, Zelda remakes on the Wii U. But they're both great, and they're both the definitive ways to play those games. You can make the argument that the 3DS versions of Majora's Mask, really just Majora's Mask, but also Ocarina, have some things missing from them. But I would say that is absolutely not true of the Wii U remakes.
Do you know what I'm hoping for, Zelda's 35th anniversary, which has to be coming up here in a couple of years, is
Sure.
Put those games on Switch. Put those 3DS remasters. Put the put Twilight Princess. Put Wind Waker HD. One of the things I've loved about Nintendo Switch Online, or the 3DS and the Wii were just their vast virtual consoles, and so the ability to get these older games on it, and it's time. It's just time for us to be able to do that on the Switch, I think.
Yeah, and also make the Oracle games in the Link's Awakening remake engine. Because come on,
right? And maybe somebody should be able to play Minish Cap again at some point.
Yes, also Minish Cap. I mean, also just put GBA games. Mark, we've got too many demands, and they're too diffuse. So instead, I'm going to say, if you'd like to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces, you can. All you got to do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And send us a mailing address where I can send my copy of this game. You play it for as long as you want. You send it back to me. Doesn't cost you anything. It's the perfect borrowing program.
Now, normally at this time in June, we would be celebrating E3, but of course, E3 this year has been canceled. But that doesn't mean the spirit of E3 cannot live on. So all through the month of June, we're going to be talking about Nintendo E3 presentations from the past. Last week, we broke down Nintendo's 2004 presentation, which turned out to be really, really interesting. This Thursday, we're going to be talking about the presentation from 2006. And then next week, we'll be talking about 2010, followed by the 2011 presentation. You can find all of these online on YouTube pretty easily. It's such a fun time capsule. I had so much fun checking out 2004's, and I'm really looking forward to talking about 2006 on Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got like the rest of today, I guess, to watch that and send in your questions to us, Nintendo Cartridge Society at
At
gmail.com.
gmail.com.
Or tweet at us at NinCart Society because we're going to talk about it. 2006. This is the full reveal of the Wii, so it is a monumentous occasion, and I'm sure that we're going to get more of the same kind of thing that we were talking about last week, but like blown wide open. So anyway, tune in on Thursday for that. Mark, are you ready to get into what we've been playing this week?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so Murder by Numbers, has been well established on the show, is a Picross game that is also a murder mystery visual novel set in 1990s Hollywood. It is a delight and a blast, and I continue to play it just sort of quietly in the background. But this weekend, I finished the main story and I completed all of. So as you're going through, there are 4 cases, right? And in each case, if you do all of the puzzles and you don't use like hints or anything, you end up getting an S rank in that case, and then that unlocks extra puzzles that you can do as part of Scout's memory. Scout is the little like robot who flies around with you and solves the crimes with you. I finished the story. I got an S rank in most of the cases, and I did all of the puzzles that the S ranks unlock, with the exception of case number 3. For some reason, I don't have an S ranking. And I don't know why that is. My current theory is that I missed one of the puzzles, right? That like I talked to someone when I had enough evidence, but could have like looked around the environment for like one more puzzle, because I never use the hints. I never use like any of that stuff. And I don't think it like penalizes you for like taking a long time on any of them or anything. I think it just so I'm confused is what I'm saying, and I don't know if I should go back into case 3, do all of case 3 again in the hope of getting an S rank, just so I can do these last 2 puzzles.
Yeah, that stinks because, I mean, first of all, congratulations on
Thank you.
completing the game. But yeah, that stinks because it would be nice if they told you like where you were missing it, or like had the ability to go in, because the only option being like replaying through the whole thing, like that stinks.
Yeah, I mean a single case probably represents 5 hours of gameplay, like a lot. And if it's a Picross puzzle I have done already, never mind, I probably did it like a month ago, so I probably don't remember. It would be like playing all new puzzles, really. But yeah, it's a little bit of a bummer. I feel like I'm just gonna put it down, and not have this game 100%ed, and that'll be that.
Well, so
Great game though, and sorry, just to put a little button on that, because I'll probably never talk about Murder by Numbers again. I liked the ending of the story. The 4th case goes like right into like tying it all together and like exploring who Scout is, why he exists, and all that stuff. Totally satisfying. Really I like the writing throughout, but I think the ending was well written as well, and I just really liked it.
yeah, that's cool. I haven't gone back to it, probably for a couple of months now. But the time I put into it was like super enjoyable. It definitely delivered on what I was hoping it was going to be, which is that like mashup between a Phoenix Wright type game with like a Picross puzzle solver.
Yeah.
So I ended up picking up the Outer Worlds port that came to Switch. I had pre-ordered it, which for whatever reason, I was just like, yeah, this is. It didn't even cross my mind that it might be a bad port.
Sure.
And that definitely like turned out to be the case. So the Outer Worlds was a game developed by Obsidian. Obsidian has since been purchased by Microsoft, so they're now Microsoft first party studio. But this was a RPG that was in development before they were purchased and has been ported to Switch. And it is totally so like a lot of the people from Obsidian is the studio that created that did the Fallout New Vegas release that a lot of people like more than Fallout 3 because the quests are really well written, and like they've never had a chance to make another Fallout game, but now they basically did under the guise of their own IP.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I am really enjoying the game. Like, I've only done the first planet. I've put like 6 hours into it. But it is just completely like Fallout by another name. Um, the writing is really good. Like the voice acting is good. I've like uh the choices you have to make are really interesting because it doesn't play out exactly the way you think it's going to like at least the ones I've done where it's like, oh yeah, like it seems like these factions are like really clear cut and like the decision I should make is really clear. So you like make that decision and you're like, oh crap, that had unintended consequences that I didn't see happening. But it all like plays out in a way that you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
actually I guess like that's interesting and I can see why it would happen that way. Um but on the technical side, like I am generally not somebody, I'm not concerned about frame rate, I'm not concerned about like that kind of stuff really. But in the open world segments, the game is bad. Like it is like
Oh no.
yeah, it's like straight up like a like early gen PS3, lots of like pop in textures not loading or textures loading really slow. So like I'm like dashing, and then the game will literally just stop and there will be like a spinner while it's like loading the
Oh wow.
everything in. When you go inside, like interiors actually look pretty, like they look fine. And you don't get that as much when you're like loaded in, but in the open world segments it's pretty bad. And this I think is not specific to the Switch port, but like the combat when you have to do one of the things I've liked about the game is for the most part I have been able to avoid combat, but there's like certain places where it's unavoidable so far. And the combat is bad, and I don't think it's related to the Switch port. I just think like the combat in the game is not very fun.
What makes it not fun? Is it just that like the systems in it aren't very deep, or like is it hard to control? Or
Well, so the whole game is played in like first person, and it kind of has it. If you've ever played any of the Bethesda Fallout games, it has the rad system where you can basically like slow down time, and then you use that time to target specific like parts of an enemy, and it tells you what your odds are of shooting it. This has a system that's like fairly similar, where you can slow down time, and instead of like toggling through like the arm or the head or the torso, you can just like free aim it, and it tells you like, oh, this will stun them, this will blind them, like that sort of stuff. The problem with it is that it just doesn't like it's just not like, it doesn't feel good, right? Like there's no real pretense of that part of it being RPG-ish. There, when you like shoot at something, it does tell you like how many hit points you've done, and like the weapons all have different like DPS, but it just doesn't feel like fun or satisfying. It's uh like workable, I guess, but whenever I have to like shoot something, I'm like, oh man, I really wish that this was like a little bit more fun. The combat is just something you definitely just push through so you can do like the fun story elements.
Yeah, it's it's a bummer that that's not more engaging. I'm glad it sounds like you are still like sort of you do like the game though.
I am, yeah. I wish that I would have bought it on any other platform. But I am enjoying the game. But I cannot recommend like buying it on Switch. Like it, especially
Yeah.
at $60, it is like absolutely not worth it. Um, if it drops down to like 20 or something, and hopefully they're going to be releasing like additional performance patches. But in its current state, I totally cannot recommend it, even though I am enjoying the story part of it. Like buy it on any other platform.
Yeah. Well, all right. Do you have any sense of like how far you are? You said you're like 6-ish hours in. Do you have any sense of like fraction wise, like how much of the way through the game you are?
Well, so I don't know for sure. When I looked it up on like how long, I can't remember what the website is, but it's like how long did it take you to beat this? And
I believe it's how long to beat .it.
there,
I believe.
That's great. It's like the consensus there was like 25 hours. But I've put in 6 hours, and I just did the main, like the first planet you're on, Terra 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have no sense of like if it's, and I did most of the side quests except for like one guy I think I was supposed to talk to, like I just could not find. But I think that like I don't know how many more planets there are after this, so I don't know if it's like, oh, there's just going to be like 2 more planets and then I'm done, or some of the planet, or like it's multiple planets but they're not all as long. So I have
Sure.
no sense of the speed that I'm going, and I have no sense of how long the game is. But time to beat .it says that it should take about 25 hours.
Okay, so I was mistaken. It's howlongtobeat.com. I was thinking of the old website
.tom?
.com.
Oh.
Like, you know how a website normally ends? I was thinking of the now defunct canistream.it,
Mm-hmm.
which was never as useful as you would think it would be. Sarah and I both continue to play Animal Crossing over the weekend. She found the final fossil and donated it to Blathers to the museum. So now, yeah, our dinosaur section is now complete. Every fossil in its place, and every place has a fossil.
So I wasn't sure if fossils, that's interesting. I've never completed all the fossils before. I wasn't sure if fossils were like bugs or fish where like you had to wait to a certain time of the year for them to show up. But it's just one of those things that if you're like doing it every day, eventually you'll get them all.
I'm convinced that fossils, the way it determines what fossil you have is that it could be any fossil when you get it. It's not until you have Blathers assess it that it randomly selects just from a complete list of all the fossils, which is why you get so many repeats. And then eventually, after giving him enough, you've completed it.
Yeah.
So perseverance pays off.
That makes total sense. Have you had Red visit your island very often?
No. So there was after Red's like initial visit, he didn't come around for a while. And I think there was like one day that he was going to be there and I just didn't play it or whatever. So like,
Yeah.
I think we missed him one week. And then he wasn't around this last week either, which means he has to be around sometime this week. So I wish he was there more.
Yeah.
Like the way the game like doles out the visitors to the island, there are so many different possible weekday visitors. Gulliver, Kix, Sahara, CJ, Flick, Red, and Label, the porcupine that judges your outfits. And so it's one of those every weekday once you've unlocked them all. And that means that only 5 of those 7 will be there in a given week. And then it just prioritizes the 2 that didn't make it on the next week. But it just means that like you can go for 2 weeks without having Red, who's like got some of the more like interesting dynamic stuff that you want to do. You're buying art from him. You want some of the art. If you buy a fake painting from him, you maybe blew your chance to buy new art for 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, especially because you're like trying to fill your museum, right, with art, and so to have him only show up like once every 2 weeks, it's just like artificially limiting how difficult it is to fill your museum.
Yeah. Leaf is the other one, the sloth who sells seeds and stuff. I was wondering this week why they don't release like amiibos that are plushes of those animals who visit, right? A little plush Kix, a little plush Red, and sell those, and then people can scan them in, and that character automatically visits your island the next day.
That would be awesome.
And also people would love them. Get a little plush CJ and Flick, like that'd be great.
I mean, especially because like they could just put the like the chip in its foot, and so those things could be huge. They could be any size.
Yeah, we all remember the Mega Yarn Yoshi. That thing was big. But they don't really make amiibo anymore. So.
Right. Yeah. Weirdly. So I also picked up Clubhouse Games, and friend of the show.
Same.
Yeah. Oh, did you? Yeah. So friend of
Yeah.
the show, June and I, we played it a little bit this weekend, and that's the only time I've played it. So I had a lot of fun with the ones that we played for the most part. But one of the things we tried to do was play Hanafuda, which I had never played before, and like going online and then trying to play Hanafuda is not the ideal way to play that game. So I'm hoping, and I don't know, maybe you have experience with this, Patrick, if you had a chance to check it out, but like, I don't know if the single player would give you a better like tutorial of playing it, like you would, because you'd play against the computer and be able to fail. But
Yeah.
otherwise, it's like, unless the person that you're playing with like knows how to play the game, like I did not find the little intro to be enough information for me to be like, and now I can enjoyably play this.
Yeah, no, it's I purchased the game on Sunday evening, and because Sarah and I were talking about it earlier in the day, and I was like, "Does that sound like something that would be fun?" And she's like, "Yeah, that sounds great. Let's get it." And so I downloaded it, and then we did not play it. But I assume I'll have more to say about it, after this week. You'll notice, Mark, that I did not mention Xenoblade Chronicles, and I think I am going to go back to it, but I just wanted to point out we got an email from listener Josh. Josh writes in and says, "Hey guys, I just wanted to let Patrick know that you have my full support on dropping Xenoblade. I played it on the Wii and had a similar experience with it, where I was kind of interested in the story, and I liked the idea of getting sucked into a super long RPG, but the battle system seemed terrible. It's designed like an MMORPG's combat system, which, just to pause on reading for a second, is the perfect way to describe what this combat system feels like. I was trying to describe like the individual moment to moment. It's like an MMO. That's what it feels like. But I feel, and then back to the letter here. But I feel like what makes MMO combat fun is communicating with your friends and teamwork, which obviously is not a thing in a single player RPG. Its many side quests are also structured like an MMORPG, which is to say that they're generally story light, fetch or kill X number of monsters quests. I got like 20 hours into it, partially because my friend who really liked the game kept telling me the battle system got better further in the game, as I'm sure other listeners will tell you. In my opinion, it did not. Well, it did a little, but it got slightly more. It got, but in that it got slightly more complicated, but nothing fundamentally changed. Just to say a couple positive things about it. It kind of reminded me of an old school collectathon where a lot of the fun is just exploring all the little nooks and crannies of the giant hub areas, which I do genuinely enjoy and is not something I usually expect from JRPGs. Also, I got my friend to just spoil the story for me, and apparently it goes to some crazy cuckoo bananas JRPG places, which I mean in a positive way. I feel like if I enjoyed the battle system more, I probably would have been happy where the story went, as someone who is only mildly interested in the story about 20 hours in. Anyway, keep up the good work, guys. Black Lives Matter, Josh. Thank you, Josh. You're correct. Black lives do matter. And thank you for the permission to ease up on the gas for Xenoblade. I am definitely not feeling it right now. And, if I'm open to the idea of feeling it again at some point in the future. But most of what you're describing is it definitely turning me off.
Did you buy it digitally or physically?
Digitally.
Uh-huh. Because I was gonna say, I like at some point, maybe. Well, no, I'm not gonna buy it, but like, because there is that casual mode that lets you like go through the story, and I don't know, for whatever reason, I really want to like Xenoblade, but I have never actually bought any of the games.
I mean, I think, with the exception of having never bought any of the games, I feel like this is me too. That like, I see Xenoblade and I'm like, there's something in here. There is a rich nougaty core at the center of this poison chocolate, and I just want it. And for whatever reason, it's just never. None of the iterations of it have felt good to me. Well, in any case, thank you, Josh, for writing in. Mark, let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
So, I can tell you right now, I don't think we're going to be playing any of these games, Patrick, because there is nothing on here that really tickles my fancy.
Yeah, I would even say that there's not even anything on here that I know anything about.
Yeah, I'm scanning this list and I'm feeling the same way. So should we just run down some of these titles?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so coming out today, June 9th, we have Demon's Tier Plus.
And also Jump King.
And then on Thursday, June 11th, we have Prison Architect Island Bound, which is DLC for Prison Architect.
We also have Pix Boy and Magazine Mogul. Magazine Mogul could be good.
And then on Friday, June 12th, we have Super Toy Cars 2.
And of course, Rogue Robots. All right, those are all the new releases. There are others, but we know just as much about them as we do about the ones that we just read off to you. So let's close out this segment. Now it's time for a regular segment on the show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or a group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance, 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, we are going to be staying in the realm of video games for this segment, and we are going to be talking about PlayStation's whatever event that's happening on Thursday. Was originally scheduled for last Thursday. PlayStation decided it would be better to bow out and let the conversation that was playing out in the national media play out. It is still playing out, so this thing is supposed to be just about games that people will be playing on and around the release of the PlayStation 5, which we anticipate to be holiday.
Yeah, which is I guess makes a ton of sense because they've already pretty much blown out all you would need to know about the PlayStation hardware except what it looks like. We don't know yet, right?
Yeah, we don't know what the box looks like, and we've seen the controller, and we've gotten a lot of the specs and sort of like I think there's still a lot of, it's not hardware necessarily, but just sort of like the PlayStation service, like what how it functions, how it addresses backwards compatibility, and all of that kind of stuff is still a little bit up in the air. But yeah, they've said that this is going to be specifically about games.
Right. And so what is your temperature on like the PS5 launch in general?
My temperature is in like, what is the likelihood that I'm going to get one on or near launch?
Or even just like your excitement level to learn more.
I mean, kind of low, honestly. I play a lot of games on my Switch. I've played a lot of games on 3DS. Sorry, I'm talking about Nintendo during 433. But like,
it's fine. Just put a quarter in the 433 jar.
I will. But yeah, I don't really feel like the current hardware is failing or limiting my gameplay experiences. And I don't really know. I don't feel the need for new hardware. What about you?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I can't tell if it's just like where I'm at in my life and the fact that, so much of the time that I have for gaming, like it's just dedicated to stuff that I play on Nintendo platforms. So I also will put a quarter in the 433 jar. But yeah, like
50 cents.
I just am not. It's not that I'm not excited. It's just like, to me, it feels like kind of like on the periphery of the conversation. Like I'm like I like tech. And so the fact that there is going to be a new console generation is really exciting to me. But like, I don't feel like I'm necessarily excited to like experience it. I'm more excited for like the discussion around it.
Yeah, well, and I mean it's interesting. Just for me personally, I didn't get a PlayStation 3 right when it came out. I didn't get a PlayStation 4 right when it came out. I think even I guess none of the PlayStations did I have at launch, but I have had every single one of them sooner or later. So like, I know a PlayStation 5 is probably something I will buy at some point. I can't imagine that any of the games that they're going to announce on Thursday are going to like excite or motivate me to get the beginning of PlayStation generations is so rocky.
Yeah, and I feel that way with like kind of the beginning of every like Xbox generation as well. So yeah, I just haven't seen anything that really like excites me for next generation. But in the like 30 seconds we have left, do we have any like guesses as to what we're gonna see at the PlayStation event?
I'll tell you something that could genuinely get me excited is Batman. If PlayStation can align itself with the new Arkham game or whatever Rocksteady is working on, that would get me excited. The original Arkham Asylum was the game that made me go, all right, fine, I got to buy a PlayStation 3. So, yeah, I suspect if there's an Arkham game.
And there are rumors that like Resident Evil 8 might be revealed there, and it is easy for me to get excited about something that is new Resident Evil, but I guess we'll never know for sure.
I guess we will never know. Hold on, one more bit of speculation. I'm sorry to keep blowing the premise of 433. But do you think it is possible that we see anything about whatever the next Final Fantasy is?
And even if it's not Final Fantasy, I am hoping beyond hope that they have some like really like weird or cool looking JRPG that I can get really excited about, because it's been a long time since there's been like Final Fantasy 15 didn't like really excite me that much. So like something like that to look forward to, I would be all in on.
I mean, a Final Fantasy 16 would be a blockbuster announcement. So too would Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2. Would be another huge one. Anyway, we were accompanied today by pianist Kyle Shaw. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
After Damon Baker left Nintendo last year, Kirk Scott took over as the face for indie games on Switch at Nintendo of America. But Scott recently announced via social media that he would be leaving Nintendo. Here's his statement saying, quote, "I am no longer working at Nintendo. The past 5 years have brought incredible joy from working with all of the amazing indies, and that work will continue. Since February of this year, the events we have all experienced have crystallized my thinking. I'm tired. Opening doors for minorities, being inclusive, and enabling success for everyone in the indie space will be a priority for me. It brings me joy. I can't wait to continue this work with all of you. We all have an opportunity to make things better for others and educate while making great games. Stay tuned."
Yeah, an interesting, if sort of enigmatic statement from Kirk Scott. Does it sound like there's any ill will in there, or is it just like a realigning of priorities and him realizing that like he's got to strike out on his own for that?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Yeah, it's hard to say because, like you said, it's so
hard. Yeah, hard to say and weird to speculate.
Yeah. I mean, I do think maybe this is where you're kind of getting that sense. And when I read his statement, like I kind of feel the same way. Is that he doesn't say that it was a joy to work at Nintendo, which I think is interesting. Like he says, "I'm not working at Nintendo any longer, and I loved working with I like the past 5 years have brought incredible joy from working with all the amazing indies," but he doesn't say like I loved working at Nintendo, like I will really miss it. Like none of that is in there, and I honestly I do think that's telling. Especially think that his statement, focused on wanting to open doors for minorities, being inclusive and enabling. I like who are we to speculate? But I agree that it is interesting that like the words that he chooses.
Yeah, and I mean it's interesting. He says that since February of this year, so he's referring to like coronavirus stuff. Although I guess February is a little bit early. I don't know. It is an interesting statement, and I wonder if we'll ever get more of that story, or if it really truly matters and really Kirk Scott is going to go on to support indie games in a different capacity that will maybe allow him to pick his portfolio on different criteria than Nintendo was going to let him, which is what I suspect this really boils down to. And so good on Kurt for finding like another way to do his work and get it out there.
Yeah, and like, thank you for the work that he's done for games on the Switch for the past 5 years, and we of course wish him luck on whatever he does in the future. Um, and like to your point, I think that everything that has been going on in the world has, been a reason for a lot of people to kind of rethink their priorities and what they've been working on. And yeah, it'll just be really interesting to see where he lands or what he starts doing next.
Yeah, and it is a shame in this one capacity that he was a good weird voice for like the fact that he would go on the like Nindy showcases and showcase a personality that is specific, like it had that like Nintendo energy to it, and if hopefully Nintendo has someone else in the wings that can be as skilled a presenter, while also doing the work, the sort of outreach with indie developers.
Absolutely. In an interview with La Vanguardia, Animal Crossing New Horizons director Aya Kyogoku said that the newest installment in the series is being viewed by Nintendo as the start of the third generation of the franchise. She said, quote, "The first Animal Crossing had no online play features. It was created under the premise that players could communicate in an asynchronous manner without an internet connection. Online features were added in Animal Crossing City Folk, and it was possible to play together even with people living in different places. In New Horizons, due to the fact that you start by not having a normal town, there are a lot of changes even if you play alone. We also added a mode called Party Play, where you can play with people living on the same island simultaneously instead of doing it asynchronously like before. The fact that Animal Crossing is a game about communication has been constant through the franchise's history, but the options relating to how you communicate are changing in a flexible way alongside the times and technology."
Well, I mean, like 10 years behind the times in technology.
But changing nonetheless.
Yeah, and it is interesting that like they recognize that in allowing multiple players to run around one island, one village, at the same time, that it is like a fundamental sort of like a sea change, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it makes the game fundamentally different. Um, and it's the sort of thing that just makes me wish that online that the online play was less laborious in how it connects or disconnects. I should not have to see the whole animation of you flying to my island. Like I don't, and we also don't need to be interrupted when you leave. Like it should just say mark left, and that's it.
Yeah, completely. And I'm sure in 10 years we'll probably get there. Um, and look, like, who am I to question the director of Animal Crossing New Horizons? But I think that Wild World, the DS game, had some sort of like feature where I could visit your island or like sit village, and you could visit my village, and you couldn't do it at the same time. So maybe that's what she's referring to. That is actually probably 100% what she's referring to, since City Folk was the first
You bet it
time
is.
that you could do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's 100% what she is saying. It's also it's interesting to note that the original Animal Crossing would have been on in Japan, the Nintendo 64, which had absolutely no way of connecting to the internet. So yeah, it's the sort of thing that makes me I don't know. Every now and then, I long for like the like little quality of life things, the decisions and tweaks and upgrades that would make Animal Crossing, which is already a great game, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and turn it into just like an absolute behemoth. Like I would love it if it was just easy to drop in and drop out of each other's games. I know people are already using Animal Crossing for like birthday parties and game shows and talk shows and stand-up shows and just hanging out with friends. But if I mean, can you imagine trying to do like a party in there and trying to get like 8 people on your island? It'd take 20 minutes just to get it started.
Yeah, it would be so much much nicer if you were just able to like easily get into somebody's island and easily get out. The other small things, like I do think by far New Horizons has the best like quality of life. Like, they've like even in New Leaf, each game has gotten a little bit better, but even in like New Leaf, like everything took a little bit too long, and I feel like in New Horizons they've really like tightened a lot of that up. But maybe it would change the game too much, but someday I would love to be able to rotate buildings so they're not, so like you have more flexibility and they're not
Yeah.
all just like facing the one direction.
Facing down.
I
Yeah.
would love, like just like some of the options, like when Gulliver comes to your island, it's like I get it. Nothing about this changes, like literally nothing every time. So like let me just get going. Just like little like things like that. Like each game they improve
Yeah.
a little bit, and so I'm already wondering what like the next Animal Crossing will bring.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier in this episode that we've got all of the fossils now, but there are still, holes, little like patches of dirt that have fossils in them. So we still dig them up, and I still want to sell them, but then I have to get them all assessed by Blathers, and he still tells me, "Oh, none that I can accept. I'm afraid we already have fossils such as these." And it's like, yeah, I know this. Like, I know there's no way I can bring you a new fossil, but you have to assess them before I can sell them. And every time he makes a little joke about like, if I didn't exercise control, I just buy them for myself. But alas, I can't, and gives them back to you. That like it's just. And I understand that the game is intentionally slowing you down in a lot of ways, and even when it's obnoxious in some capacities, it can just be frustrating when you're like, I'm having the same conversation with the same animal every day, sometimes multiple times a day, and it's just not fun.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree. The Nintendo UK store is offering a cool pre-order bonus for Paper Mario: The Origami King, the Switch RPG that's coming out this July. People who pre-order will get origami sheets and a magnet sheet.
Um, yeah, they're both great. I love this.
What is a magnet sheet?
So it's a sheet of magnets, like a sheet
Oh,
of
I
stickers, but
understand.
it's yeah.
Gotcha. Interestingly, this will apply to both digital and physical pre-orders. How does the
Which
digital
is
part
nice.
work?
I guess you just pre-order it and you get like a digital code, and then they send you this physical bonus.
That's cool.
Yeah. Mark, have you taken a look at these things yet?
I'm going to click right now.
Well, while you are looking at them, you can ponder this question: why does Nintendo of America hate us and not want to give us cute little origami foldy things and a sheet of magnets?
I don't get it, because what I would say was that it was because like Nintendo's riding high in the US, and so they like don't feel the need to. But even in the Wii U era, when they were sucking air, they like did not ever do any of these like special consoles or pre-order bonuses. It's like when they're doing bad, it's austerity measures, and when they're doing good, they're like, we don't need to.
I wonder if it just has to do with scale, because like the UK audience isn't nothing, but it's not the US audience, Um, I wonder if that is it. That it's just like the size of the audience is just too big and too variable.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably right that distribution has something to do with it. Like, it's probably part of the reasons we've seen, like in Club Nintendo in, or whatever it's called now, in Europe. They used to anyways get like really cool physical rewards and stuff like that we never got here. Japan is the same thing, right? They always get cool consoles or cool pre-order bonuses, and I think you're right that it's just like easier in those countries to just say like, yeah, our audience is there's like a cap, and so and the physical area is small, so like distribution is a lot easier. Where in the US, like maybe like California would be the equivalent. Do you know what I mean? Like if they were just going to release it in California.
Yeah, yeah, and I want yeah that's almost got to be it. Like the scale is just too enormous. We've got 50 states. 50.
I mean, my opinion, too many. But also, it's either too many or not enough. 50 is just not working for us.
That's right. Let's go DC and Puerto Rico.
These I'm looking at the images right now. They are really cute. Like the magnets are really cute. The little origami sheets are really fun. They have ones for like different characters. That the easiest one to make out is like this Goomba. Oh, I guess those are toads probably. The other ones, yeah.
I think so. Point is, it looks good, and I'm mad we don't get it.
I mean, on top of all this, the answer is probably just that Nintendo's withholding, right? They're just like, they're spiteful. Right. They're mad about the Virtual Boy, but they just don't want to admit it.
I am trying to raise up the Virtual Boy.
Masahiro Sakurai, hero of the Super Smash Bros. Series, and as far as I can tell, all-around good guy, mentioned in his regular column in Famitsu that while he has been playing a lot of video games, he has not felt comfortable tweeting about them because he doesn't want to imply that any of the games he may be enjoying are going to be represented in Smash Brothers. Which I feel like he has said before. Like, he must still get bothered about it, because I think that he's said in the past that, like, I don't talk about the games that I am playing, because all people ever reply to me on Twitter is, like, is he in Smash? Like, is she in Smash? Like, is this character in Smash?
I mean, I know it happens to a lot of people that are involved in creations with rabid fan bases, but it feels like we have ruined the internet for Masahiro Sakurai. Like, the poor man can't do or say anything without being harassed by Nintendo fans, either to ask him if it means that the character is going to be in Switch or in Smash, or to scold him for putting another Fire Emblem character in there.
Which is really sad, because like, one of the few joys of social media is being able to connect with people that like have similar interests, or connect with people that you're like, hey, I've been playing this game, and like, you don't know somebody who's playing it, so you just want to like talk to somebody about it. And we have taken that away from Masahiro Sakurai. And shouldn't we all instead want to be like, hey, that's like, I've been playing that game, it's cool, let's talk about it? But we don't.
Yeah, we don't. We'd just rather harass this man. It's bad news.
Hey, were you sort of interested in Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics, but didn't want to spend $40 for, like 4 dozen public domain games and a piano? Well, good news. Nintendo has made available a Clubhouse Games Pocket Edition, which is free, which is pretty cool. Players will have access to Dominoes, Connect 4, President, and slot cars.
This is super cool, because this thing also functions as, and I don't know if there is a separate app that also does this, but this is the thing that will allow you to play with people who have the full version of the game, like everything else. So like the sort of like download play version of it, but is also like a demo for the thing as well. Nintendo's being exceptionally cool with this release. Like, I almost don't trust it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've got to say that the Connect 4 is, even though it's just like Connect 4, is one of the favorite games that I played when I played with June over the weekend.
Look, some games are classic. Some games are worldwide classics for a reason.
I was actually really surprised at how some of them, like how well some of them translated. Like, we played Yahtzee, or I think they called it Yacht Dice, in the game, and like that translated totally well. I was surprised at how like fun some of these games were, when I wasn't really expecting to have that much fun with it.
Are you able to sense how many of the Yacht Dice are in your Joy-Con?
It is a no, but it is a subtle shaking for sure.
I see.
And finally, last week we talked about listings for unannounced Switch games showing up on Amazon France. So there were some first-party listings, and there were untitled, and there were also some third-party listings from publishers like Capcom, Warner Brothers, Square Enix, like a lot of heavy hitters. But Amazon France has removed the listings for all of the third-party games, but the 4 Nintendo listings still remain.
And I don't think we would have necessarily reported on this part if we hadn't spent so long speculating about what those third-party games could have been. It felt irresponsible to not bring it up.
So what do you think this means? Do you think that it means that like it was just a mistake in like inputting games for this PlayStation reveal on Thursday, or do you think that that they just like removed them because they tipped their hand a little bit too much? Like that stuff happens all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible that there were like SKUs for a lot of those games. For like, I would guess that they are in place of a Capcom game that is coming out, but maybe not necessarily to Switch or hasn't been announced for Switch yet. And that like they were all just like lumped together with the Nintendo stuff that they added that they know is coming. It makes me still excited about 4 more Nintendo games coming out this year. And if they're all remakes of Mario 64, like, hey, bring it on.
Yeah, maybe, and because it's not Nintendo of America, it's Amazon. It'd be like Nintendo of France. Maybe it's 4 really cool special editions with really cool pre-order bonuses of Mario 64 that we just won't get here.
Oh, I'll be so mad. All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. If you like the episode, you can share it on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you share stuff. Understand it's maybe a little bit of a weird time to be sharing links to a fun Nintendo podcast, so I absolve you of the responsibility of doing that. Don't do that. It's weird. Donate to some charities instead. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell. And the show is at NinCart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8BitBetty. You can get more of his music by going to 8BitBetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.
My name is Will Hines, and I am a ghostwriter, meaning I write other people's books for them. And I have a podcast called I Will Write Your Book, which are recordings of my meetings with my eccentric clients, such as a woman blocked after one sentence of a children's book about her dogs, a romance novelist who dislikes sex, and a man proud of having sampled everything in his local grocery store. This podcast has been described as fully improvised, played by some of the best comedians on the planet Earth. Hey, that's pretty good. That's I Will Write Your Book on Campfire Media.
Campfire.